What's going on, gardeners? It's Saturday, February 19th, and it is a gorgeous spring-like day here on the southeastern coast of North Carolina. And today I'm going to show you all how to prune and fertilize your asparagus patch for an amazing harvest the following spring. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell to receive new video notifications, and check out our Amazon storefront and spread shop in the video description for a list of the gardening products I use and awesome custom designed apparel and other gear. Your support is greatly appreciated. Asparagus are perennial plants that grow from an underground rootstock called a crown. Once the crowns become established, they can produce for you for 20 years straight, as long as maybe even 30 years in some cases. So once you plant them and they get established, you are going to have perennial food for you for a very long time. Now, if you follow my channel, you'll know last year during mid-February, I planted all of my asparagus crowns, and I will link to a video above that teaches you how to do it. I had incredible success. They all rooted, and all of these ferns that you see right now is basically exactly 1 year's worth of growth, almost to the day. So when it comes to growing asparagus, it is important that the first year you do not harvest any of your asparagus at all. You let the crowns establish and you let the ferns grow as much as possible. The second year, you can have a very light harvest. The third year, you can have a moderate harvest. And then years 4 and beyond, you can have heavy, complete harvests of your asparagus spears. And the reason why we do that is the following. All of the ferns that you see right here, during the growing season, they are nice and green, and they have the chlorophyll that absorb the sun's rays via photosynthesis. They create the energy that feeds the crown. So the reason why you can't harvest at all the very first year and you can only harvest a little bit the second year is because you really want the ferns to grow as undisturbed as possible and absorb as much solar energy as possible, so your roots become as strong as possible, because these roots grow very, very deep. They are the foundation of your plants. You want them to be as strong and robust as possible. Once year 3 comes around, they're usually established enough that you can get a good harvest. And then 4 years in, just like a fruit tree, usually they start producing very heavily. However, no matter what year your asparagus crowns are, no matter how established they are, you always want to stop harvesting your asparagus spears by late spring, early summer, so around June and July, because you want them to grow undisturbed for the rest of the year so these ferns can develop and go through the photosynthesis process and refeed your roots. If you keep harvesting them continually throughout the season, you won't get these nice ferns, your crowns won't get enough energy, and your asparagus won't do well. So don't get greedy with the harvest, no matter how old your crowns are. When it comes to pruning your asparagus, timing is very important. And asparagus is one of those plants that's actually easier to grow in cold weather climates. They're extremely cold hardy, and here in Zone 8 in North Carolina, it's actually more approaching the more southern border of where asparagus can actually tolerate and grow in milder weather climates. And that's because you really need to thread the needle in climates like mine when it comes to the pruning process. Now, as I mentioned, during the growing season, these ferns are nice and green. However, right now, they're completely crisp and brown. You can hear it. They're totally crackly, they're totally burnt. Now, the interesting thing about your asparagus is they are one of the first plants that will break ground for you in the spring. So in a lot of locations, you'll have your asparagus spears popping up in March. And in climates like mine, it actually takes several frosts and freezes to knock back and kill back these ferns. So for me, I don't get frost until about mid-November, and it took all the way until mid to late December for us to have enough frosts and freezes that were strong enough and long enough to actually knock these back. So for me, I only have about a 2-month window between Christmas and late February where I can actually prune all of these ferns before the asparagus starts popping out of the ground. And to be honest with you, I'm very late. I should have done this a month ago, but I've been busy and I wanted to take the time to actually film this. But if you're like me, don't wait as long as I'm waiting right now to prune your asparagus ferns. Start pruning them as soon as they are completely killed back and browned. When it comes to pruning your asparagus, it couldn't be any simpler. All you're going to do is you're going to take a plain old pair of hand pruners, and you're simply going to cut the ferns down about 1 inch above your soil line. And that's really all there is to it. What you should do with the asparagus ferns after you prune them is a hotly debated topic in the garden community, and the general consensus is that you should not cold compost these or place them on top of your beds, on top of the soil, because there is a beetle called the asparagus beetle that can overwinter inside of these ferns. So the general consensus is you should either dispose of them, burn them, or hot compost them so it kills any beetles that may be overwintering. So I have this 31-gallon galvanized steel trash can. I will be placing the ferns in here, and I will be burning them all and then using the ash as a means of a fertilizer to spread on top of the beds once they are all burned. Now that all of the asparagus ferns have been cut back and removed, we want to take this opportunity to remove any weeds that we may have accumulated in the bed throughout the year. Once we remove all of the weeds from the bed, we can then fertilize. Now the bed has been completely weeded, we are going to apply our fertilizer. And I'm simply going to use an organic granulated fertilizer. You'll see this one says vegetable and tomato 356. This is going to be just fine for asparagus. Anything where the numbers are small and close together, around a 444 or a 555 will do just fine. Don't get too stressed out about selecting your fertilizer. As long as it's a balanced organic fertilizer, it will work just fine. So all I'm going to do is take a few handfuls and lightly sprinkle it all over the bed. You don't necessarily have to target the crowns because these roots are so big that they are everywhere. So as long as you evenly fertilize the bed, the roots will find the nutrients. Now that we place the fertilizer, I'm going to place a bag of this cow manure compost in my bed. You can use any kind of compost. You can use cow manure, horse manure, chicken manure, leaf compost, mushroom compost. It doesn't matter. Just spread some compost about a ½ an inch or so on top of your entire bed and try to get it spread as evenly and uniformly as possible. Now, in this optional step, we are going to spread the ash from all of the asparagus ferns that I just burned. Now we know they've been obviously completely sterilized. And we know they are pest and weed seed free. So we are just going to lightly spread this ash evenly over the tops of the bed. Now we are going to top the bed with a mulch layer, and I'm going to use a natural hardwood bark mulch. Now, it doesn't matter what mulch you use as long as it is a natural mulch. Do not use dyed mulch or rubber mulch or anything synthetic like that or anything that has chemical dyes in it. But if you don't have access to hardwood mulch, you can use redwood mulch. You could use chopped up leaves. You could use arborist wood chips, pine bark nuggets, wheat straw. It doesn't matter, just make sure it's a natural covering. Now, while mulch is pretty much mandatory for your asparagus beds, how much you want to use is going to be solely up to you because there are some disadvantages to a thick mulch layer. Asparagus is going to break the surface based on the temperature of the soil. So the thicker you mulch your soil, the cooler it's going to take because it's going to take longer and longer for that soil underneath to warm up with a very thick mulch layer. So if you're in a climate like mine, Zone 8 North Carolina, where we are prone to both things breaking ground early and late frosts or freezes, it may be advantageous for areas like that to have a thicker mulch layer to try and delay the asparagus from breaking the surface. Conversely, if you're in a location that has a shorter growing season, if you use a very thick mulch layer, it may really push your asparagus breaking ground back further than you want it to. So keep that in mind. Tailor your mulch layer to about how early or how late you want your asparagus to break ground. I'm going to put about a 1 to 2 inch layer of hardwood mulch here. That's not really that much, and it shouldn't really impact the rate much of when the asparagus will break ground. And the final thing we're going to do is we're going to wet down our raised bed. That is going to help compact down all of the mulch, and it is also going to wet down the organic granulated fertilizer that we placed underneath the compost layer, and that will help begin facilitating the breakdown process. And that right there is everything you need to know to prune and fertilize your asparagus plants for an amazing harvest come the spring. So everybody, I sure hope you found this video helpful. If you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you're notified when we release more videos like these. If you're curious about any of the products that I use in my garden, they are all linked down below in my Amazon storefront in the video description. And while you're there, check out my Spreadshop link for custom merch if you want to support the channel. Thank you all again so much for watching, and I hope to see all of you again on the next video. Hey Dale, are you enjoying your day? It is such a beautiful 60-degree day here. You've been so good sitting on your bed while I'm filming this asparagus video. Would you like to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk? We haven't gone for a walk all day. You want to go for a walk, buddy? Yeah? You want to go for a walk? Oh, let's go for a walk. Oh, he's so excited. I think he wants to go. Come here, come. Okay. All right, Mr. Handsome. We're going to go for a walk, okay? We're going to go. I better take him.